did everything I thought I was supposed to do. And yet here I am at 39 starting over. It's wild how you can build a life that checks all the boxes and still feel like something's missing. From the outside, mine looks pretty good. Good job, good pay, nice apartment. I followed the so called right path. I went to college and did the corporate job thing and had serious relationships. But underneath it all, there was always this low key dissatisfaction I couldn't shake. Like I was living inside someone else's story. Like I had all this invisible potential I could feel, but I couldn't access. Like I was slowly wasting my life waiting for someday. And at first, I didn't question it. I figured I just needed a new routine or a new goal or another weekend away. But no matter what I added, the feeling stayed. And eventually, I realized it wasn't that something was missing, it was that I had built a life around all the wrong things. I had become a version of me I no longer wanted to be. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to pretending you're fulfilled by a life that just doesn't fit. So I didn't. I decided to start over at 39. And these are the 9 things I had to let go of to do it. Number 1, I let go of people and places I only liked when I was drinking. I used to think I loved going out, the energy and the music and the people. But if I'm honest, I usually had to pre drink just to want to go, which should have probably told me everything. I didn't feel excited about my day to day life. And so, because my days felt dull, I tried to make my nights loud. I always went out looking for some kind of spark or some thrill or something to make me feel more alive. And alcohol gave me a shortcut to that until the next day when I felt anything but alive. After my last breakup, I stopped drinking for a while, and suddenly all the places I used to love, they just started to feel off, overstimulating or sticky or exhausting. Like, why is the music that loud? Why are we all yelling just to say, "What do you do?" Without the alcohol, I realized I didn't actually like those scenes or the surface level people I kept meeting in them. The small talk and the forced laughs and the "we should totally hang out sometime" that never led anywhere. Now I only go places and spend time with people I'd actually enjoy sober. And that list, it is way shorter than it used to be. I'll still have a drink sometimes, but not to make the night tolerable, and definitely not to bond with people I wouldn't vibe with otherwise. Because if I have to escape myself to enjoy something or someone, it's probably not meant for me. Number 2, I let go of faking it to fit in. I used to think I was bad at networking, but it turns out I was just bad at faking it. Saying the right things, laughing on cue, nodding like I cared, I would leave those events completely drained. But when I got diagnosed with ADHD at 38, suddenly it all made sense. Turns out I had been doing something called masking my whole life. And masking is when you adjust or hide parts of yourself to feel safer and more accepted. And I did it all the time. I was constantly scanning and rehearsing and managing myself. I was running this silent script in my head of what to say, making sure I smiled, but not too much, laughed, but not too loud, held eye contact, but not enough to feel weird. I wasn't being fake exactly, but I wasn't being me either. I was performing a version of myself I thought was safest. And the wild part is I could feel myself doing it, but I didn't know how not to. It was just how I'd learned how to get through these things. No wonder real connection always felt just out of reach. I was rarely fully there in the moment. So I had to let go of faking it, of overperforming, of saying yes to things that made me feel like I had to be on. These days, I crave the opposite, the moments where I don't have to rehearse in my head, where I can just be. Like a trip I recently took with a friend, and on our first night in New York City, we skipped a big night out and we just stayed in and cooked dinner and we talked for hours. There was no pressure and no pretending, just complete presence. And it was magic. It reminded me how good it feels to be somewhere where I don't have to perform. So that's what I'm letting go of now, the need to impress or that urge to shapeshift to fit the room. I just want more moments where I can be me, unfiltered, unscripted, and unmasked, because that's where the true connection actually lives. Number 3, I let go of killing time. I used to kill time like it owed me money. There was a whole phase of my life where I said yes just to have plans. I would look up random events like a festival 2 towns over, or a sports game I didn't care about, or some pop up just to have something to do. I would RSVP out of habit, not desire. And it wasn't that I was afraid to be alone. It was just this is how I felt life worked. You filled the space. You stayed busy. You made your nights and weekends exciting because your days weren't. And I didn't hate any of it, but I didn't really like it either. It's just something to do. But now I don't kill time. I honor it because Time is the only thing I can't get back. And I don't want my life to feel like a string of random plans just to avoid stillness. So now, if I have a free night, I don't rush to fill it. Sometimes I read or take an online class about something random that interests me, or say yes to a plan that actually lights me up, not one that just fills a blank space. Sometimes I do nothing at all, and I let that be enough. I'm not afraid of empty space anymore. I've learned to crave it because I finally let go of thinking I needed plans to feel like I had a life. Number four, I let go of the timeline I thought I was supposed to be on. There is this weird pressure in your 30s. Like if you're not partnered or building a career you love or buying a house or having kids, you must have fallen behind somewhere. I used to feel it all the time. Like I'd missed a train I didn't even want to catch. Everyone else seemed to be gliding forward, and I was stuck wandering around the platform, wondering what was wrong with me. But then I read this beautiful metaphor in The Late Bloomer by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, and it stuck with me. She talks about how some flowers don't bloom in spring like others. They bloom at the end of summer or even in the fall. And it's not because they're behind or they're broken, but because they've been gathering strength. They've weathered the heat and the storms and the winds. And when they finally bloom, it's because they're ready. They're rooted, resilient, fully themselves. And I realized maybe that's me. Maybe that's a lot of us. We're not late. We're just blooming in our own season. And that season might look different than the one we imagined or the one everyone else seems to be on Instagram. So I let go of chasing timelines. I don't try to catch up to people who were made for a different season than mine. And I just started trusting that what's meant for me, the life and the love and the purpose, it's not something I missed. It's still unfolding. It is still taking root. I would rather grow slowly in the right direction and arrive a little later as the person I actually want to be than show up early for a life that was never meant for me. Number five, I let go of making excuses. I used to feel like I had to earn my no, like if I wasn't double booked or out of town or on my deathbed, then I owed it to somebody to say yes. And if I wanted to say no, it had to come with a full presentation, a reason, an apology, or a made up conflict just to make it sound okay. So I'd scramble for something that sounded legitimate, like I have a work thing that night, or I promised my friend I'd help her move, or I think I'm coming down with something, or even my cat's been acting weird and I want to keep an eye on her. Sometimes they were true, but sometimes they weren't. But almost always they were covering up the real reason. Just didn't want to go because that felt selfish, rude, like I was disappointing someone. So I would say yes and then spend the whole night wishing I hadn't. But over time, I started choosing differently. I was prioritizing how I felt and letting myself have boundaries without the 5 paragraph explanation. And then I came across this quote by Glennon Doyle. Every time you're given a choice between disappointing someone else and disappointing yourself, it is your duty to disappoint that someone else. Your job throughout your entire life is to disappoint as many people as it takes to avoid disappointing yourself. It put to words what I was already learning, that every time you choose their comfort over your truth, it gets harder to hear your own voice until one day you forget what you even wanted in the first place. So now I can say no without a backstory, like, thanks so much, but I won't be able to make it this time. No fake plans, no guilt spiral, just honesty. Because I don't know who said it first, but I definitely heard one of the Olsen twins say, no is a complete sentence. And the people who get it, get it. And the rest, I am learning to let go of pleasing them too. Number six, I let go of forcing friendships that didn't fit. I used to think that if someone was nice or had been around a long time, that meant they earned a permanent place in my life. I've learned it's not about how long someone's been there. It's about how it feels when they are. One friend of mine I used to be so close with started getting increasingly aggressive during political conversations, and not just passionate, but combative and dismissive. And it wasn't a one-time thing. And at some point I realized we weren't even speaking the same language anymore. We didn't just see things differently. Our values were fundamentally misaligned. And I couldn't keep silencing myself to keep the peace. So I made the really hard decision to step away from the friendship. Some friendships need to be ended and others simply don't need to be pursued. I had met this girl on Bumble BFF and we hung out a few times and she was perfectly nice, but I felt myself zoning out halfway through every conversation. It was all surface. There was no real depth or spark or even an overlap in how we lived or thought or connected. And The truth is, I started to dread seeing her name pop up on my phone because I started getting that tight chested, low key anxiety where you feel obligated to reply, but you're not excited. Friendship shouldn't feel like that. But here's what I now know: just because someone's nice doesn't mean they're right for you. And just because a friendship used to fit doesn't mean it still does. Kindness isn't enough. History isn't enough. If it costs me peace, it is too expensive. Number 7, I let go of second guessing my decisions. For years, I would overthink every decision to death. I'd poll 5 friends, make a pros and cons list, sleep on it, change my mind 12 times, and still end up doubting myself, especially with big emotional stuff like whether to end a relationship. Even when something in me knew it wasn't right, I would second guess myself into exhaustion. And looking back, I think I was hoping that someone would just give me permission to leave. But at some point, that started to change. Certain decisions began landing in me differently. It didn't come with panic or back and forth. They arrived kind of like quiet instructions, like a sentence had always been there waiting for me to hear it. We need to do this. Like when I made the decision to move to Tulsa, I was just sitting on my couch one day when I heard this little voice say, "Look up that program that pays people to move to Tulsa." And I didn't even know what that program was, and I didn't know how I knew about it. I later found out that a friend had emailed me about it 5 years earlier. But when I looked it up, I just knew that this is my next move. Even though I loved my life in Austin and it didn't totally make sense on paper, but I followed it. And that decision ended up allowing me to save enough money so now I can quit my job and do some traveling. And the same thing happened with yoga. I had only been practicing for a month when suddenly I knew I should do a yoga teacher training. That one definitely didn't make any sense, but I found a program in Costa Rica and I signed up within days. Each time I followed one of those nudges, something clicked. It didn't always make logical sense, but it felt right. And over time, those moments became proof that I can trust myself and that clarity doesn't always come from thinking. Sometimes it comes from listening. So these days, I don't need to phone a friend for their opinion. If something feels aligned in my body, even if I can't explain why, that is reason enough. And if it turns out to be the wrong move, I trust that I'll learn something and grow through it and keep going. Number 8, I let go of settling. I haven't dated in over a year, and it's not because I'm closed off, but because I'm clear. I'm clear on what I won't tolerate, clear on what I won't carry, and clear on the kind of love I'm no longer available for. My last relationship looked fine on the outside, but inside it, I felt more like a life coach than a partner. He had these big dreams, grand plans for the future, but no real follow through. And I kept falling for his words instead of his actions. I spent so much energy making sure he was okay. Meanwhile, I stopped taking care of myself. I didn't even notice how much of me I was losing until we broke up. And the moment we did, it was like this weight had lifted. I felt like I could breathe again. And with all the energy that I had been pouring into him, I finally turned it towards myself, my growth, and my goals. So, no, I'm not avoiding dating. It's just I've stopped settling. I don't date for potential anymore. I would rather be alone than exhausted. I'll wait for reciprocity, for ease, and for true partnership, the kind that feels like coming home to myself, not losing myself in someone else. Number 9, I let go of over explaining my life. I've been called a lot of things over the years: brave, impulsive, lucky, picky. Some are meant as a compliment, but others not so much. Either way, I used to feel like I had to explain myself, why I'm not dating, why I wanted to quit my job, why I'm choosing to live out of a suitcase and walk across Spain. I'd launch into justifications as if I could just find the right words, then maybe they'd understand. Then maybe I'd feel understood. I kept explaining myself to people who wouldn't choose this life for themselves because I wanted them to say, "Yeah, I see why you're doing it." But how can it make sense to someone who's chasing something totally different? They didn't need to get it though, as long as I did. Because the truth is, I don't feel brave or impulsive. I feel aligned. And if that looks a little crazy from the outside, I can live with that. So, yeah, these are the 9 things I had to let go of to start over at 39. But it gave me the power to begin again. I stopped chasing the life I thought I should love and started building one I actually do. So if this spoke to you, if you're in your own season of letting go, hit the like button so I know to keep making videos like this. And if you want to follow along as I rebuild from the inside out, please subscribe. I would love to have you here. Thanks so much for watching.